First things first, you had your next fight announced. I want to hear from you. What do you like about the matchup?
Everything. I enjoy fighting, and I really don't care too much about matchups. Just whoever, whenever, just send me the contract and let's get to it.
Are you happy with the timing that you're able to fight in May, especially, given your recent injury, that you're able to get back in there so soon?
Yeah, I don't think my foot is going to prohibit me from fighting. I've been training hard, been training at a high level pretty much since it happened. It happened on either Friday or Saturday. Got stitches the same day, obviously, and rested till that Tuesday, and been training ever since.
You're back at middleweight, but it's going to be a bit of a different situation because you had kind of the hectic year last year. You briefly had that stint when Darren wanted your second fight at 205, and then you had the short notice situation with Muniz. So how do you feel about the weight situation now that it's not a short notice or going up? You're at middleweight for a full training process. How do you feel?
I feel good. I really don't think that there were any issues like cutting weight or even like short notice. I was getting ready for one guy. He got hurt. I got COVID. So that fight fell through. And a week later, they came with Muniz. So, I guess short notice in terms of preparing for that particular fighter. But in terms of like being in fight shape and, everything, it really wasn't short notice at all.
With this particular opponent, he did get knocked out in his last fight. So do you expect when you face him that he's going to bring an extra intensity to you when you think about that result?
Dude, I have no idea. I don't know him. So, he might be the kind of guy that gets knocked out. Maybe he goes to wrestling because he doesn't want to get knocked out anymore. Maybe he's the guy who wants to prove something to himself and wants to stand and bang even more. I don't know. So really don't care. It's not really so much about what he does as much as it is me imposing my will and doing what I want to do in the fight. So
as far as training and getting ready, what are you going to be planning on doing? What sort of skills are you going to sharpen up to be ready for this fight?
I try to sharpen everything before every fight. I don't think there's just one particular thing that I can, concentrate on. Especially after my last fight, I focused a lot on striking but just kind of forgot about my jiu-jitsu. So I guess if there's anything more that I'm going to train, it would be, jiu-jitsu and wrestling. But you see my fights, I like the hands, so I expect this fight will be on the feet.
If all goes well and according to plan, when would you like to get back in there again?
Maybe the fall. My kids get out of school, so I can go travel with them and hang out with them, and while they're not at school. So when they go back to school, they're gone half the day anyway. So it just doesn't feel as bad to miss as much. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a student myself. I know what you mean. So I wanted to talk to you about a guy that seems like you're on his radar quite a bit over the past year or so. Andrade. What do you make of him, for lack of a better term, calling you out all the time?
I don't know what his deal is. That's the guy who has seen me in person after calling me out and won't even look me in the eye or even in my general direction. So, at first he started off like kind of rude and disrespectful, and then he kind of changed his tone. Tried to make it more humble after he took a few losses. He just got knocked out in like 12 seconds. So, I don't know. It's really healthy for him to fight a guy like me who's, going to hit him a lot, that soon after a knockout. But, it really doesn't do anything for me. That guy's like 1-4 in the UFC and has, failed drug tests. So, what does that do for me? Nothing. So it's whatever. He can keep back. Maybe it happens one day, maybe it doesn't. But I really don't care to fight him.
Was there ever a point in time?
He's not really on my radar.
Was there ever a point in time where that did interest you? Because I know he went on the pay-per-view card last March and won, and that was, I want to say that was the first time that he did it. Did it interest you then, or has it just always been that you don't really care to fight him one way or another?
Not really, and to be honest, the UFC is not going to give me a 1-4 guy, anyways. I think everybody winning wrestling, so I don't. At this point in my career, like he's a newcomer. It's not like he's a. Did you get it? Did you get all that?
My internet went out for a few seconds just then, actually. Though.
What I was saying was I don't even think the UFC is interested in that fight. It's not like he's a newcomer. He's not a prospect. He's 1-3. He's got a losing record. He's got a failed drug test. I think at this point, everybody that I've fought in the UFC has had a winning record. So, if he can go, if he can get a couple wins in a row without taking any more losses, then yeah, sure, why not? Comes across, his name comes across, it's whatever. I'll take the easy money.
Talking of guys with winning records in the UFC, even though it's kind of fallen off a little bit, Thiago Santos has encountered a bit of a skid at 205, and everybody knows about you guys' fight. He went up to 205 against you. If he were to come back down to your weight class, would you be interested in being the guy that welcomes him back?
Yeah, dude, those are the kind of fights that I like. Even though it was short notice or whatnot, I like a dude who's gonna stand and fucking let's get it. None of that point fighting nonsense. So
has that diminished? I mean, given that he's kind of had his fights where he hasn't taken a lot of risks, do you think that would benefit you, given that you're willing to throw at all times?
Dude, him and I think we're kind of the same. It takes two to tango. If you make him fight, he'll fight. He'll bite down on his mouthpiece and let him ride. But if you're comfortable with, pointing him up and touching, then he's going to kind of play the same game as you. But yeah, it was a fun fight between him and I.
And then Ed Herman as well, last potential opponent. I mean, he's been a guy that you like. So would you still want that?
Who?
Ed Herman.
I mean, yeah, sure. I'll fight him. Like I said, I really don't say no. I'd like to keep it in middleweight, but if maybe a short notice opportunity arises, then yeah, why not?
So we're still in March. We're still early on. Where do you want to be at the end of 2022?
I'd like to fight 3 times this year. 3-0, obviously, and maybe have a number next to my name, top 15. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, most likely, if you were to get 3 wins, that would have to be a number next to your name. Then you start talking about, main events and these massive fights. Have to imagine you've got your sights set on that if that's the situation that you end up in. What are your thoughts on a situation like that?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's goal to main event and fight for the belt at the highest level, which is the UFC. So yeah, I think the UFC likes the way I fight, so I get a couple wins in a row and fight a ranked guy. Yeah, sure, it could be a main event, especially with them fighting every weekend. So, but we'll see what happens.
Are you excited at the prospect of getting back in front of fans potentially this year? I read that your next fight, May 21st, is going to be at the Apex. I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but you have the opportunity to maybe get in front of fans. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, dude, I love fighting fans. Don't get me wrong, but I like the little cage even better. It's suited for a fighter like me. Not a lot of room to run and squirm and point fight. And if you look at the number of finishes in the little cage compared to the big cage, there's a glaring difference of finishes. I think it's like 3-1 or something like that in the little cage. So that's what I like, and if they could bring that little cage to the crowded arenas, like that would be a perfect scenario for me.
All right. Well, last thing, as we've talked about your goals and where you want to be, you're in the double digits of UFC fights up to this point. You fought a who's who of names, and specifically in the context of this next fight, how do you feel that your experience is going to give you the advantage?
Well, man, I know what my limits are. I don't know if a guy like him has ever been like pushed to the max. So no matter how the fight goes at whatever pace, I think that outside of getting clipped, like I'll be able to outpace him, out cardio him. Probably hit harder than he does. He may have the speed advantage, but that's every fight for me. But the strength and speed, the strength and power advantage is me. I think the grappling advantage is me. So I don't really necessarily think that this fight is gonna I have to fall back on a past fight to find an edge. I just gotta keep getting better and doing what I do, and just know that, I'm durable, that I can take punches, take damage, what can he? See.
That wraps up what I had for you this time around, man. Really appreciate you being on, and it's been a pleasure. I wish you the best of luck in your fight and for the rest of this year. And roll tide, my man.
Appreciate it. Roll tide, brother.